let's try to do like this. Nice. So let's wait for just 1 minute if anyone else is joining. Actually, just for you to know, Pavel, you already have a customer in this BC.
Wow, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's me, Sergio Morales.
Cool.
A buying customer.
That's amazing. That's glad to hear it here.
So there is one less to convince about it.
Okay. I will do my best to convince everyone else.
Great. So I think we can start, and if anyone is gonna join us, everyone can join at any moment. So welcome everyone to the NetBCN meetup. As we have been doing for the last 2 years, this is gonna be just another meetup event, online event. But what we have been doing lately, instead of just focusing on specific workshops or technical demonstrations, we have been moving to a more dynamic or live interview, let's say interview, where the speakers, the participants can just explain about what they have been doing. We will be able to ask any questions about any detail. Obviously, everyone has the right to answer or not the questions, but I think that the topic that we have today, we are going to talk about the DDoS solution that Pavel is working in Fastnetmon company. And we are looking forward to learn more about how the solution works, what are the main differences that this solution brings against other solutions that maybe we are more used to see, and the technology that works behind the scenes. So thank you very much for being here today, Pavel. And if you want to say something about you, just to introduce yourself to everyone.
Hello, everyone. I'm Pavel Odintsov. I'm project leader and technical director of a company called Fastnetmon. And I'm one of the original authors of Fastnetmon community. It's a DDoS detection tool with open source core. Fastnetmon is, I would say it's quite old because it was started in around 2013. It's around 8 years ago. As company and as project, we focus on offering affordable and versatile DDoS detection, which may fit as much as possible networks and as much as possible cases. And it's briefly what we are doing, and I hope we are doing it very well.
Yeah, thanks. We are really interested on this topic. And maybe my first question for you, just to get the conversation start, is about how you would compare the solution that you are providing versus other commercial solutions or other solutions around. What is the main differentiator between Fastnetmon, the DDoS solution, and others that are available?
That's a great question. I love it. So I would say from perspective of transparency, I would say that Fastnetmon was one of the first solutions which actually uses open source approach. So it's quite unlikely that you can find some products on market where you can actually open source code and not just look on it and just change it. And from this perspective, Fastnetmon is quite different because we have many customers who actually they're not just using Fastnetmon, they rewrote significant parts of it just for their purpose, for their case. But this one may be too complicated because it's very unlikely that your company will be hire full-time software engineer, dig into source code. And in this field, Fastnetmon offers lots of benefits for you because if you try comparing Fastnetmon with most of the products available on market, many products, they look more like black box. So you have some expectations, what you need to do. So you have expectation, what kind of server you need to buy. Some of vendors on market, they're hardware boxes, not software. And some of them, of course, they have requirements. You need to use exactly this model of CPU. You need to buy exactly this model of network cards. So you need to deploy exactly this version of Linux. And so many questions, so many demands, so many constraints. But on the opposite side, in Fastnetmon, we are trying to avoid asking customers for serious changes in their network. Instead, we try to adjust for existing design of network, for existing equipment, for existing devices available and existing protocols available in network. And from this point of perspective, in many ways, we treat Fastnetmon like Lego. You can change it significantly. It's not like black box, because typically, how you can actually imagine black box? It's something like some box without like clear understanding of what's going on inside, which offers something. But in most of the cases, you cannot change what it offers. It's like typically it's some commercial approach about graphing solution. In many cases, like commercial APIs, which cannot be changed significantly. They're just here. Some selection of database, but selection not by you, selection by vendor. But in Fastnetmon, we are trying to be flexible as possible. So you can change database used by Fastnetmon. You can use standard tools available on market, such as Grafana, Prometheus, InfluxDB, ClickHouse, Victoria Metrics, for example, or Graphite. And even in terms of BGP integration, we offer two different daemons. Like we offer first-class support for ExaBGP, we offer first-class support for GoBGP, we have integration with BERT, we have integration with Quagga, we have integration with FRR. And you can see from this perspective, Fastnetmon is very flexible. So, and we trying hard to avoid asking you about so many changes in your network. And so if you have already something in place, it's very likely that we already support your stack of technologies in Fastnetmon because of our community approach. We have many integrations implemented by our customers or vendors. Some of them are basic, some of them very deep. And it's also one of the benefits of Fastnetmon. And I would say one of the, it's not last, of course, because, you know, we have plenty of benefits of Fastnetmon. Again, it's part of open core approach. And Fastnetmon, we're trying to be very simple and understandable. Like, again, we are trying to opposite us from approach of black box. So instead of like saying like, this DDoS was detected just because computers decided, it's not helpful. And even worse, it's dangerous, because if you cannot explain and you cannot understand why this specific attack was detected in these specific circumstances, you cannot be sure that it was correct one or was it wrong one. And for example, if you have false positive, how you can actually investigate it. And in Fastnetmon, we are trying hard to make it as much as possible transparent, understandable. And so we haven't published source code, which can be externally audited, check it for possible errors. And of course, we fixed countless number of errors because of customer reports, customer testing. So I would say from this perspective, it's all main point is also our main points which distinguish us from vendors.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear about this open source approach. So you are just describing how most of the open source projects look like. I have a question. It's a very basic question. On your presentation of Fastnetmon, you talk about DDoS detection.
Yep.
Is also remediation in the sentence, or is it only for detection? I'm not familiar with the solution.
Yeah. So in this perspective, we position Fastnetmon first of all as detection engine. It's or we call it like sensor. But it depends, because terminology behind term like mitigation, it's quite complicated, because it depends on point of view. Because in many cases, like when we are saying like, okay, we detect DDoS attack, and what we can do, what Fastnetmon actually can do, Fastnetmon can generate BGP annonces, and BGP announce can, it's just a polite question to network to apply some policy changes, move traffic away, move traffic to different infrastructure, move traffic outside of your network. And in this approach, it can be treated as mitigation, because Fastnetmon can create automatic black hole, like just to stop traffic completely. Of course, you may raise objections like blocking some traffic, like all traffic of specific host is not like mitigation. But in terms of company, which has like hundreds of millions of IP addresses, like black hole of specific one, just single purpose to keep network alive, keep network running, it's kind of mitigation. And like, of course, instead of like just making black hole, Fastnetmon can create more specific BGP annons and move traffic for maybe specific equipment in your own network, which can filter it out like precisely. Or it can be used to move traffic away outside of your network to like external neutral DDoS scribing center, which can filter out traffic for you. And from this perspective, Fastnetmon somewhere in between. They were more interesting because like for around last year, we trying to change how we actually position Fastnetmon. It's like we position Fastnetmon more as network automation, as reactive or dynamic network automation tool. Because what literally Fastnetmon is doing in response for specific event on different scopes, it may be spike of traffic for /32 or spike of traffic for /24, we can run specific actions, different of them. Like what kind of actions? Typically just BGP announce for host or network or group of networks, a set of communities, next hops, and specific configuration which can be applied. And from this perspective, of course, Fastnetmon is more not even detection and not mitigation, but more about orchestration. Because you cannot stop DDoS by like buying expensive equipment and putting it in your network. It will not help, because it will help until you fill out all your incoming channels and your ISPs will start crying, oh, can you stop it? And so in this case, you will need like to apply multi-tier approach, starting from something simple and moving away to specific on-premise scribing center in your company. When they reach their capacity, you may ask for help from your ISP. And one of the great features in Fastnetmon, which we added around 2 years ago, it's BGP flow spec. Because of flexibility of BGP flow spec, we are not limited by moving like or blocking prefixes. We can move specific types of traffic or block specific types of traffic, because Fastnetmon can identify, like, for example, we have not just attack, and we have attack by using UDP protocol from port 53. And of course, it's way more helpful and very more precise. So instead of like moving all traffic for a specific host, you can block or move away just a fraction of it, which very likely is malicious.
No, it's really nice what you're explaining, and it's just opening more and more questions for me.
That's great, great.
And actually, for the audience, if you have any question, feel free to jump in. So you're more than welcome. One question that I got is, you mentioned a neutral scribing center, and I was not aware that this was actually a thing. Because I have been working with commercial solutions that they had a scribing center that was their own scribing center, and was not aware of this neutral. Yeah,
so we put quite complicated meaning when I say neutral, because we position Fastnetmon as vendor neutral solution. So because it can work with Juniper, Cisco, Nokia, Huawei, it's one of the points. But when I'm saying like neutral scribing center, it actually means it's like, yes, it's exactly scribing center, which is not bought as part of package, because many vendors on market, they offer you detection, on-premise mitigation, and cloud for filtering. It looks great, but problem is not in all cases you are getting best service. You are not getting, like, you may get best filtering, but not best detection.
Yes.
And same time, you may get best like cloud scribing from vendor, but detection is bad, on-premise filtering is really bad. What you're trying to do, why position Fastnetmon as orchestration, it can be in center, and you just pick up best tools available on market.
Okay, so it's just a part of an automation architecture. So you have multiple pieces, and when you say orchestration, maybe what I understand more is like the trigger of the orchestration. So
exactly,
there is where you can start something that could be a composition of multiple steps that can be orchestrated with other workflow orchestrations. But you're, let's say, from my perspective, within a network automation architecture, I see that you are more on the, in my mind, on the, let's say, on the observability side of things, because you are getting observed state from the network, and then you are taking decisions on top of that. That could be a trigger for something, could be whatever action.
Yes, exactly.
Does it make sense to to position in this area. So it's kind of where you're getting the state, you're understanding, and there you are pushing.
Yes, exactly. So
Then,
it's
my question is, how do you get the state? What are the technologies that you use in order to understand the traffic that is coming? Not about the logic on the security side of things, more about what are the input of this observed state? Is SNMP? Is packets? Is what it is?
Yeah, so very first version of Fastnetmon was implemented for port mirror, because back in time, it was my first company. It was company in cloud compute area, and we had no Juniper equipment. We had no hardware routers. It was like kind of company's approach to unification, and we had like a routing service running on Linux. And like we have no telemetry, we have no traffic visibility, and actually only one option how you can actually retrieve traffic. It was port mirror, and port mirror is still available in Fastnetmon. I would say it's like last resort option. It's quite flexible. I mean, flexible in terms if you have no S-flow, no IPFix, no NetFlow from your router for some reason, or you cannot use them, or they don't work well. It's still the case. Port mirror is like, if nothing works, try it, it will work. But of course, majority of our customers, they use NetFlow or IPFix, and quite large number of customers actually use S-flow. And in terms of like, what is the best protocol for the DOS detection, and like all the time we're just trying to recommend S-flow, NetFlow, IPFix, they're good enough. But typically it's not about, again, it's not Fastnetmon's decision what you need to run on your network. It's more a decision of your vendor. Like if you have, for example, Cisco, you have no choice. You're very unlikely to have S-flow in your network. And here you go, NetFlow is your choice. So, and from Fastnetmon perspective, we have great support of telemetry protocols, many of them. Like we have support for very modern protocols such as inline monitoring. We support NetFlow Lite, we support NetFlow version 5, 9, we support IPFix. And I would say we support it very well because every single vendor has their own tricks. And in particular, implementation of sampling rates, sampling encoding, like how many packets like sampled delivered to NetFlow collector, and compare how much actually router observed, it's extremely complicated to retrieve it. And that's why we have some tricks specific for vendor. But I would say we have really great parsers which support most of the vendors available on market. Back in time, we started with existing implementation from, I think it was Flow Dump library, but we moved away from it a long time ago. And for now, we have our own custom parsers to retrieve all information. We don't use SNMP because it's quite complicated for us. And we tried hard to retrieve as much as possible information from NetFlow and IPFix.
And for instance, telemetry with GNMI or something like this is something that is on the scope, or is not useful, this kind of thing?
No. Unfortunately, because Fastnetmon works on scope, we need information about flow itself. So we don't rely on port counters, and we're trying to like, if for example, if we need to build like what is a bandwidth usage for specific interface, we're trying to use this information and create this information using information from NetFlow or IPFix, because it's one of the points, it's to simplify deployment, because SNMP is very vendor specific, and it's extremely complicated to create wall picture and wall map of network. And of course, you need to change communities for every router. You need to add every router into configuration. And problem is, just to enable NetFlow on large network, it's complicated. And even if you start asking, like, can you enable also SNMP? And then like different types of SNMP, different vendor implementation, it will be so complicated. And we intentionally decided to avoid dependencies on SNMP and leave just with live telemetry.
And then I have another question. And this actually, when you're talking about this, for me, from my perspective, and following your idea of being an open source project that is composed and can interact with multiple pieces, all this collector side of things where you're collecting the flows it reminds a lot to me to PMACCT. So PMACCT is a specific tool only for collecting flows, and I guess that is actually up to date. And we are lucky to have Paolo as one of the organizers that is not today because
it's sad.
He was not able to be here, and he will have his high importance moment now. But anyway, my question is that I understand that for you, in order to make sense to implement this within your product, within your solution, but have you considered plugging in something like PMACCT for collecting this information, and then you just keep on the DDoS solution the logic, and you delegate the collection thing or the collector part of thing to another tool like PMACCT or others?
That's an amazing question. Of course, we have. I would say for now, like we have many customers who actually use many existing solutions like PMACT in same time with Fastnetmon. They just make copy of flow for the existing deployment of PMACT, and in same time they can like have Fastnetmon, and they want to have more traffic transparency, and they want to store it. And it's more about, Fastnetmon was started as DDoS detection. So only single purpose of Fastnetmon is DDoS detection, because, it was planned because for my first company back in time in 2012, it was like, I would say it was a matter of survival of company, because, we had so many DDoS attacks because we operated on, I would say, low cost, extremely cheap hosting market. And we had plenty of people angry on our customers for some reasons. And because of density of customers, we have for one server, we have around like 1,000 of customers. And, all the time there is somebody who is angry enough to attack at least single site, like from many of them. And we constantly were under attack for different purposes. And Fastnetmon was built to solve exactly this problem. But this time come, when, again, it's one of the points, like we talk about transparency, and we talk about like reasons. When you see that Fastnetmon detected the DDoS attack, you will be able in log files to say for sure that's a reason exactly why it was detected. And back in time we had many issues with Fastnetmon. Of course, all of them are fixed now. It was years, like around 5 years ago. But to understand that it was correct decision, you need to export some information. Like, for example, you said in Fastnetmon that all traffic exceeding 10G is an attack. Fine. And then you can see alert from Fastnetmon and see, oh, it wasn't 10G, was it? And you need different source of information. And for a long time, we recommended customers, okay, you can install different tool just for this purpose to confirm the specific host. It had more traffic actually than needed in Fastnetmon's configuration. But it's not helpful. And it's like sending customer away, it's not our business, it's not our problem, install some random tool, which is still, again, it's a second tool, it's complicated. That's why this time we started adding lots of metrics backends. We started with Graphite, then we added InfluxDB, then we started working with ClickHouse. And what is the point? Why? And we started exporting all information we have in Fastnetmon, because in Fastnetmon is a real-time in-memory DDoS detection engine. So it's not, we don't use any database. We don't need lots of fast NVMe drives, SSD drives, nothing. We just create completely in memory. But to investigate issues in what happened at last night, why Fastnetmon blocked this specific code, we export lots of metrics, I mean millions in some cases, sometimes 10 millions. It's we export very precise aggregated information about bandwidth. So we have it on different scopes. We have, of course, total amount of incoming packets, outgoing packets per second, what's the bandwidth of network. And we have exactly the same information on different scopes, like how much traffic you have for specific /24, how much traffic you have for protocol like IPv6. And last level of precision, which uses lots of disk space, is what was bandwidth for every single host in your network. It may be IPv4 host or IPv6 host, and you can track down and keep this information for years if you have enough disk space. And so at this point, we step it into network visibility market, because when you export so much information, and for now in Fastnetmon, it's not in community version yet. It's an advanced version. We have peering reports. You can say for sure how much traffic you have for a specific autonomous system number. You can say for sure how much traffic you have for a specific country. And in this point, at this point, Fastnetmon can be treated like solution which can provide traffic visibility. But at the same time, we have some plans about adding like option to store every single flow observed by Fastnetmon in persistent storage. Again, we have this feature in commercial version, and we are planning to enable it for our community version because it offers lots of more interesting ways how you actually can use information, because we have nice parsers. We can retrieve information from any router, any switch, decode it, and what we can do in exchange, we can export JSON or entry in database very high, like for most of the like really high loaded things we use ClickHouse, and ClickHouse scales up to hundreds of terabytes like easily on few servers. You can have it, and request processing time is just amazing. And I would say, yes, we are stepping into this market and we have plans about it, because it's more and more sophisticated attacks for customers. It's not enough to say, okay, yesterday we blocked an attack. Like a few years ago, customer was interested, like what was protocol of this attack? What was performance of this attack? But customers now, they're asking like, what kind of packets was involved in this attack? Like how many packets? What was source IP of it? What was autonomous system which is triggered this traffic? And we cannot answer this question without like storing every single flow in persistent storage, which can be like in days and weeks and months, can be used to, okay, this attack was involved, attack from this company, from this country, this specific traffic. And then of course, having this information, you may like make your DDoS detection very, very resilient to any kind of attack, because you know very well what was attack, and then next time you will be very well prepared and with specific countermeasures against it.
So it's interesting because all these features that you are saying, for me, look really similar to the one like a commercial product like Cantic has. So from my experience as a Cantic user, Cantic had a network visibility tool that was adding some DDoS capabilities to detect, and in your case, looks like you're doing the opposite journey. So from a specific DDoS solution, getting some things into more visibility and more things. Sounds accurate?
Yes, it's absolutely right. I like Cantic product. It's just amazing. I like their graphs, and I know their team very well. So we actually quite frequently in touch, because, you know, we have same problems. We have same topics of conversation, because, you know, one of the problems every single market working on network visibility industry, like we don't have so much information from vendors. Like it's kind of broken communication way, because of course we want to have more information. We want to more like we have more dynamic information encoded in different way. But problem is like even protocols such as like NetFlow or IPFix, they're extremely old. They are very old. And from my perspective, they don't fit like real needs of what we need, what we want, like to detect attacks faster, to see more vectors of used by attacks, to have better reliability and like accuracy of our bandwidth calculation. And yes, agree. We move from different directions, and just to complete picture, because traffic visibility is really crucial. It's not enough just to defend DDoS attack. You need to understand what's going on in your network right now in dynamic. It's not like, okay, we stop at attack, but like how much traffic how much spare capacity we had from specific upstream, like what was peak attack performance. And so without having visibility in place, you just cannot plan it. You just cannot plan your peering report, like peering upgrades or something like this one.
Yeah. Good. We have a question actually in the chat. You can check it. It's from yet another user from Fastnetmon, Javier. He's saying that he has been using the tool for a while, and he was thinking about a collaboration between his favorite DDoS detection tool, Fastnetmon, and one of his oldest and favorite group of community BCP tools, Siamru, if I'm pronouncing well. Looks like that community has a proposal for a mitigation tool. And he says if you have been talking with them, if you see something, potential collaboration there.
Back in time, we had conversation with them, but I think it was not in terms of UTRS 2.0. I suppose it was just when they introduced UTRS. And yes, we have some plans in Fastnetmon to offer more visibility about, because we have like in terms of like just understand scale, in terms of confirmed deployments of Fastnetmon community, to be specific, like open source version, we have around 25,000 of deployments across the planet. It's like it's total number of like how many installations we had for all those years. And this information, of course, we have some plans how we can actually use it for good, because just having some basic like visibility, how much attacks, for example, a specific country we have, what was most used target, and offering like customers some default configuration, for example, like integrating with UTRS 2.0 by default when you deploy Fastnetmon. I think, yeah, it will be a really great step forward how we can actually make it even better.
Good. Any other questions from the audience? I see Costas also joined. I think that Costas always have questions. Actually, I have a question for the audience and for you, Pavel, is, and maybe because we have several people in the audience that are users of Fastnetmon, how is the user experience? How is, if I have never used it, but if I would like to use it in my network, how would be my experience to set it up, to configure, to interact with the solution? Do you have to be a full hacker with a lot of time of experience with coding to set it up, or it's easy to, can you explain what the process?
Back in time, you have to be hacker, I would say. Back in time, long years ago, because like I would say 3 years ago, we changed it from compilation of Fastnetmon to binary packages. Like 3 years ago, you have to wear hoodie, maybe black glasses, as like visit some special darknet events. Of course, you know, but now it's very different experience. So for now, when you just want to install Fastnetmon, so we have
you can install it with a suit, with a tie, well dressed. So
yeah, you even don't need to remove your tie because it's not long. It's like a seat, because right now we have a really great installed app. It's implemented in language called Go. It does all configuration for you, most of the configuration. So Fastnetmon works on any Linux. I mean, when I say any, it's still, sorry, like some asterisk reference. It's like any Ubuntu, LTS, any Debian, any CentOS version, or Alma Linux or Rocky Linux. Again, no limitations. So if your company likes Ubuntu and you have contracts for subject Ubuntu, fine. CentOS, fine. And next thing, you just need to download like install tool from our server, and then run it. Like, again, simple. And everything else, our install tool will never ever ask you anything from your side. And then you will have package installed in place. Under the hood, it will download some packages, of course, binary packages. It will not involve any compilation. And in terms of just to install Fastnetmon, it's around 5 minutes. It's downloading of Debian or RPM package, which weighs around 80 megabytes. And here you go, it's in place. So installation is simple, but next step is more complicated.
Well, I can say we are a paying customer. So the main reason was is from a few years ago. We wrote how to install the community, how to install the advanced one. And we thought that the best way to try the Fastnetmon was to pay at least for a month and have everything up and running quick, because it's I feel that it's cheap. I don't want you to upgrade the pricing, but
no plans about it. I assure you.
Perfect. No, but for our use case, it's $100 per month, a bit more. If we count the hours we need to spend to maintain that, will be more. And support is superb.
Thank you. I will share with Tim.
It's one of the best supports I faced. We did very few tickets. It's also true, but we want a feature. The person answered that not yet, and then after a few months, we got an email that the feature is now. You can upgrade, and you can do these things to enable that. So was a thing about IPv6.
Oh, cool.
So, well, if you are trying to, I can say, if you are trying to play a bit with Fastnetmon, the best way is to pay at least for a month. It's easy to do, and you will have it up and running in minutes. And the support, it's very. I don't have any complaint with support. So perfect.
Thank you. Thank you for such great feedback.
Very happy
to have you as customer.
Nice is a really happy testimony of the solution. And
yeah, so we're trying hard to avoid like asking for too much questions. Of course, like I mean during installation, and it's like when I explain it, like why we don't have SNMP, because it's nightmare to change configuration. And when you configure Fastnetmon, we ask for like only for crucial stuff. Like we cannot guess for you what your BGP in configuration. Like we cannot guess IP address for like your ASN number. We ask you to enable NetFlow or IPFix from your routers, and we provide configuration guides for most of the like leaders on routing and switching market. And we ask you to list your network prefixes just to understand, like, is it your prefix or not your prefix, just to understand like what is direction of traffic. And then you just need to set baselines when you consider that attack is coming. And that's literally all. So no complex configurations, no manual compilation. And what I'm saying, it's true for commercial version and for advanced version. Of course, commercial version of commercial and community version. Of course, a commercial version offers plenty of benefits. It's like support, it's better command line interface, it's more features it can guess manually. But even for community version, to just configure Fastnetmon, it's just single configuration file, which has around 35 configuration options, and all of them are very well documented. And you just can open configuration file without checking any information about Fastnetmon itself, and you will be in position to like make all configuration changes for you, because literally just to deploy Fastnetmon in a simple scenario, you just need to touch 5 configuration options and start it. That's enough. And
talking about this, about what is your customer base without details, I can imagine that for a small ISPs, small companies that they don't have any solution, trying Fastnetmon is an easy way to go into the business, get something done. But I can imagine also from my experience with big global networks that they already had in the past some DDoS solution in place. Do you see? So my understanding is that it's easy to get up to speed with Fastnetmon to try it and to say, okay, it works. But are you seeing people, companies moving from well-established commercial, expensive, super expensive solutions to Fastnetmon after they try and test it, or is more for new people coming, new business coming into the game?
So it's actually a great question, because, you know, I can explain it in details, because it's also quite one of the interesting things, because for large company, for small companies who actually just enter a market, yeah, I would say we are one of the best options. So because our pricing is affordable, and if you cannot afford our pricing, you can use community version. So again, it doesn't mean that like community version is free, because your time is not free. So you just compare, like if you think like, okay, you have no dollars or euros, but I have spare time, fine. If you have more euros, it's your choice. For entry level is fine. Yes, I would say Fastnetmon is really great because we have no previous solution. It's simple. For medium-sized companies, more complicated, but again, we are quite strong in this market. But for large companies, it's most complicated. But one of the interesting things we have, I would say, it's not largest part of our customer base, because largest part of our customer base is small and medium-sized ISPs. When I say medium-sized ISPs, it's network up to around 100G, 200G, something around it. But if I talk about really large customers on terabit scale and plus, we still have quite large numbers. And one of the interesting things, they are not replacing their existing DDoS detection systems. They are adding more, because we have few customers, they have in place, they have equipment from one of the leading companies on the DDoS detection market, but they're not happy with their traffic visibilities. They're not happy, they're asking for, when I said like Fastnetmon is Lego, and for example, we had one scenario with one, I would say, global network. I would say it's something in between tier 1 and tier 2 networks. And they asked for one simple feature. They just wanted to have traffic like we receive in Fastnetmon exported via Kafka, because they realize they have a large R&D department. They have plenty of very smart data scientists, but they cannot use have this kind of customization from their existing vendor. And what they did, they just bought Fastnetmon exactly for this purpose. So because we can do it faster, we are more flexible. We had it previously, we developed it previously. And at the same time, like for large companies, they may have multiple solutions in place. It's not something replacing.
Exactly. It's like adding some features, or sometimes even just to get a second opinion, just to understand.
Exactly. And it's really great for redundancy. It's like vendor diversity. It's like, because for all networks, it's almost impossible for now to find network which is Cisco only or Juniper only. It's like mix. But in terms of DDoS detection, it's like, I mean, because of pricing. One of the reasons why Fastnetmon was developed for my first company, it was pricing, because every single solution we had in market, it exceeded our annual revenue of my first company. It's like, it's just not, it will be unfair to say it's not affordable. Like exceeding annual budget, it's not even affordable, just, impossible. And considering this kind of prices, you cannot buy even large like financial institutions, they're rich, they have plenty of money, but even them, they cannot afford buying, like, for example, from vendor 1 and vendor 2, like largest vendor and second largest, because it's too much money. But considering like fees of Fastnetmon, again, you don't have any exponential spike of prices. And what you can see on our side, like 100G like 100G license cost $300, it's a bit more. And if you want terabit license, it will be actually cheaper than 3,000. And you can, even if you pay lots of money for your existing, you can add Fastnetmon a second opinion for a relatively cheap price.
Yeah, it's almost negligible. So it's negligible. So it's not something that you have to take. Good. So we have actually a question from Jose Maria, I guess, or Jose Miguel.
No, no. I'm Jose Montero. But anyway. I hope you hear me well, because I'm outside, so maybe you can't hear me.
I can hear you very well.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm actually one of the newcomers to the DDoS world. And in my previous company, we had a very few budget or very low budget for such this kind of tools. And I made somehow some suricata IDS with some Ansible scripts running against our BGP that was running on MikroTik. It works well, but it was everything handmade. And now I moved to a bigger company, and they are finding some new solutions for DDoS. But actually, in this company, it happened exactly the same as you described previously. I mean, the commercial solutions from Cisco, FortiGate, or whatever are so much expensive for the revenue we are going to have. In fact, what I was thinking is, do you have somehow some, not, maybe it's not commercial, but some, some support to ask you what would be the steps to start working with you? Because actually we have a DOS only with FortiGate firewall, but we don't have DDoS solution. So somehow how to set up this, or maybe your solution with our infrastructure without having the same effort that I had to expend previously in my previous company, because we currently don't have enough time or enough manpower to configure everything.
Yeah, so a great question. It's one of the quite popular questions to our support team in general. Our position about it, so we position us as a software engineering company because like 95% of our personnel are like software engineers, experts in data structures, algorithms, telemetry, BGP. So we just lack of expertise because literally we have only expertise about, for example, GNC, CCE certifications only for support folks, but it's not for like, we cannot advise on making routing changes or configuration changes. We just point, most of the time, we just point to official configuration guides from Cisco. And all the time we recommend like, you need to check it like before making changes for this, your TAC or your support. So, and our support itself is limited by offering help about like when Fastnetmon misbehaves, only you cannot install Fastnetmon. But if you're looking for complete integration of Fastnetmon into your network, so which actually means configuration changes for networks. And in this time, we rely on our partners. And we have around 500 of partners in different countries, speaking almost on all languages. And they offer this kind of service. So you can start talking with them and they can build infrastructure for you just from beginning. So you even have like, you may not even have network. I came to them and they will build and help building network using like your recommendation, considering DDoS in place. Or they can integrate with your existing network to make it more efficient. They can recommend about what is the best provider for your case, what's the best equipment, like what kind of license of Fastnetmon you need, so everything.
Okay, and for a very beginning, could we start with some virtual machine with 10 gig server in our POP and just use port mirroring, install your, maybe not your community, maybe your first kind of license, and try to get, what do you detect?
Yeah, so actually, best option, we have trial. We have free trial for 1 month. So actually, you don't ever need to pay it because like to test most of the features of commercial version, 1 month will be fine for you, I think. And I can recommend asking for trial because when saying like about configuration, because Fastnetmon configuration is not really complicated and many people, they find it quite, interesting experience. I mean, entertaining. It's not really, it's not like weeks of time because we have guides, not in like abstract. It's like exactly like you need to do this one next, and got configured version which can be enabled right now.
Okay, finally, do you have somehow integration with some firewall provider like FortiGate, or are you tied to the routers thing? I mean, when you detect something, the actions you can provide are routing related or firewall related?
Complicated question because, for example, BGP flow spec is protocol to manage BGP like routers. But what actually kind of changes flow spec is doing, it configures ACL rules on router. And from this perspective, it's not available, unfortunately, on Fortinet, but it's available on almost every single router on market now. It's like, yes, for a Juniper MX series, Cisco ISR series, Nokia, Huawei, all of like Arista, Extreme Networks, all of them support BGP flow spec. And in this term, Fastnetmon can find out like what is the pattern of malicious traffic. It's like UDP packets, port 53, and then Fastnetmon generates BGP rule. Again, BGP to manage router. And on router side, router will generate, will deploy rule for filtering. And in this term, router will work as firewall.
Yeah, I know.
I have
I got
from this conversation, Jose, maybe it's gonna help you. Is you were talking about how easy it is to use Fastnetmon in order to integrate with an orchestration system. One way, one action.
Yes.
So one way is to use BGP flow spec to change ACLs, but is something possible to add in the next action a webhook that you have an external tool that is not your firewall, because maybe the firewall has a specific thing, but it's kind of a script that receives this webhook and then connects to the firewall and installs the ACL that you want to install? Is this doable?
Yeah, because
Go.
this is the question because from my side, well, we can extract, for example, the ACL that are you talking about. We can extract that information and maybe run some kind of script to create that ACL or firewall or whatever. So some flow of information, or how do you report that information is easily to be, maybe processed by another script to do some other things, or it's kind of, black box?
Oh, no. Black box is not about us. Definitely not. So yeah, of course, Fastnetmon, when Fastnetmon receives attack, so of course we can generate the BGP rules, but GP again, it's limited. Of both versions of Fastnetmon community and commercials, they can run scripts. And when we run a script can be literally anything. It may be Python, Perl, or even C++ application or Java application. And we pass all information related about attack. So we provide information. What is the host of target of attack? What kind of attack? What was like bandwidth of attack? And also we provide like sample of attack. And even we can provide like recommended rule to filter out and everything here encoded in JSON format. So, and if you don't like scripts, we have native logic to post information to external webhook. So everything we have, you may export, for example, it to Elasticsearch or Kibana, and of course you can implement your own endpoint to retrieve this information and convert it into your format. And I think we have few customers who actually generate ACL rules on firewalls this way, but I don't think that they actually published their implementation. And it's exactly inside of what they're doing. They just use our JSON representation of format of rule which recommended to filtering, and they convert it and transform it into syntaxes specific for their firewalls, and they apply it this way.
Well, that's great. That for us, I get the point, and I think we could start working with that really well.
Great.
Thank you.
Excellent. So yeah, looks like you are getting new I don't know how to say customers, but new people on board on the project. That is always
They're very happy to say that, because it's one of the missions of our company, just to offer tools which can help people to fight the DOS. Because problem is, it's constant fight between knife and shield, and problem is shield is years behind knife, because DDoS attacks are extremely cheap, extremely large, very disruptive, and shields are extremely expensive, and or even if you can afford them, they're not versatile enough to fit your case. They're complicated, large, heavy, and so we're trying to offer something which can be used like this, lightweight, simple, because a single company and single tool cannot stop DDoS, because it's just small part in large ecosystem. It's like cooperation between your ISP, your selection of routers, your set of internet exchange points, and like even your peering policy, because you can build network which may be which may reduce impact from DDoS, because for many companies they can just 10G for us it's not attack, and for some companies like for carriers even on 100G is not attack, and you may in theory build your network this way, but again it's about budgets.
Yeah. Great. So I don't have any more questions. I don't want to keep this running forever, because we can keep asking interesting.
Oh, it will be great. I have too many interesting stories.
Yeah. And I have another question here in the chat. I think hybrid mitigation. You sent a copy of the flows. But my question is, could we expect some kind of integration with pure DDoS cloud providers to mix the best of both worlds, fastness programmability and flexibility not offered by anyone to trigger an action so fast, and a great scrubbing network. So this kind of integration that you already mentioned, this is something that doable, this integration with
yes, of course, yes. So because most of the DDoS scribing providers available in market, at least they offer BGP interface from their side. So you can activate or deactivate their defenses using BGP announce. And because of Fastnetmon has support of BGP announces, and they can create specific, like more specific BGP announces to move traffic away, or we may do some more complicated things like call trigger prefix to move traffic away. And but for some scribing centers, you have to use API because it's not, because they decided for some reasons that BGP is not enough. And I kind of agree with them, because BGP is too sensitive when you do it over like for example, like for over like Atlantic Ocean. Like BGP wasn't built to do it exactly this way, because in terms of any disruption, because of again channel congestion, you may lose connectivity, and then your prefixes will be removed and traffic will flow again to your prefix infrastructure under attack. And because of our availability of scripts, it's quite simple to integrate with almost any scribing center. And we have no recommendations about it, but we have really great relations with two companies. One of the companies is called Voxility, and their DDoS filtering via cloud, it starts from really cheap price. It's around $400 for 1 G of clean traffic. And second company we work for a long time, it's called Beep Navas. It's a Dutch company. It's not-for-profit company. They use a very unusual pricing approach, which is not about how much traffic you have, but more about size of your company. And I really love it because, if you're a small company, they will charge you less than actually cost of your service. If you're a medium-sized company, you get average price. And if you're a large company, it's like kind of contribution into charity to help smaller companies. So if you never heard about them, check them. Both of them support BGP, and they can be integrated with Fastnetmon immediately. And also, we have great relations with them, and they know how to use Fastnetmon. They can help you, and we know how we can use their cloud. So from both sides, we can provide your advice and offer great experience. But I'm not saying that we limit it to two companies. If you have existing provider, ask them about BGP support, because having sensor like Fastnetmon can save you lots of money. How? Because most of the providers, they charge you for clean traffic. And clean traffic is calculated using 95th percentile. And typically, when you have no automation in place, you have to keep your prefixes under DDoS filtering all the time, or you just do it manually. For example, you're under attack, you click a button, you move prefix away, but then you go to sleep, go to weekend, whatever, and you keep all traffic for days on this filtering system. And then your 95% will be large, your invoice will be large. But Fastnetmon can move traffic to scribing very fast. And in terms of seconds, of course, considering time we need for BGP to propagate all changes, minutes. And then Fastnetmon can move traffic back when attack stopped. And it will save you quite serious amount of money, especially if you are not a content provider, but you are ISP, because for ISP, it's extremely expensive. I mean, not in terms of money, it's also in terms of latency, even to move traffic to different country, because MTU problems, fragmentation, it's not stuff you want to do on daily basis and all the time, only in exceptional circumstances, when you're under DDoS attack.
Great, Pavel. It was super interesting, all this conversation.
My pleasure.
We are over on time. Any closing words that you would like to say people to encourage trying your tool? Just any closing words for today?
Closing words, just in Fastnetmon, we have plenty of community channels. We have a LinkedIn account, Twitter, Facebook, Discord, IRC, if some people still remember what is it. We have Telegram. And so join to our community, even if you have no plans about using Fastnetmon itself. We have a really great community. You can contribute your experience. You may hear from people because DDoS problem is a problem which can be solved only by cooperation between ISPs, companies, governments, different organizations. And it will be great to have more people passionate about it.
Great. So thank you very much, Pavel, for your time today, and everyone.
Thank you for inviting me.
Attended to the event. It was really interesting, all the conversation, and we will try to keep this kind of fresh and dynamic events until we can just come back to on-site events, hopefully soon. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
And
I hope at some point in time visit you in person.
exactly.
Thank you for listening.
Good time. See you, everyone.
See you, everyone. Goodbye.